This is the new LEGO Star Wars Ghost. Now I'm crazy excited because today is a big day for myself. It's probably the video that I've been most excited about making ever since I heard the news of this set being released. But before we get started, for those of you new around here, for a little bit of context, my favourite Star Wars show is Rebels. It features some of my favourite characters and has some of the best writing I believe in the whole of Star Wars, with the character development of Ezra and Kanan and the Darth Maul and Thrawn's villain story arc. So when I saw the news that the Rebels crew would be in the Ahsoka series, a spark of hope lit in me, begging for LEGO to remake the Ghost and allow me to get my hands on it without it costing me upwards of $500. And boy oh boy, did they deliver. Now this set was certainly not easy for me to get my hands on. I travelled nearly 2 hours to my local store on the day of release and I had one of the worst gut-wrenching feelings you could ever have.
It looks very busy.
Being told at 9:30 AM, just 30 minutes after the store had opened, that they had indeed sold out after being opened for just 5 minutes. I tried to find it online at any other store nearby that day, but I had no luck.
Mark my words, we're getting it today. And I mean it. I don't want to have to come back tomorrow and be disappointed.
So later on, I thought I'd chance it and phone up the LEGO store again to see when they potentially next had it in stock. And they said that there was a possibility, just a small possibility, that they might have a batch with their next shipment arriving the next day, which did indeed relight my spark of hope. So I got no sleep that night, pondering the thought that the LEGO set that I've always dreamt about since I was a child was in touching distance, but still potentially not available to me.
It is day 2. We're attempting this again. We didn't manage to get it yesterday, so we had to recoup and we got told there might be a delivery today. So we're going again. We'll see how it goes. Casey, come back out.
And just like that, the fear went away and an overwhelming amount of relief, happiness and an insane amount of excitement flooded me. I had my hands finally on the Ghost. Now where do I start? This set features 5 minifigures and 2 separate builds. These are Officer Hawkins, Lieutenant Beta, Captain Hera Syndulla, Jason Syndulla and Chopper, along with the Ghost and a detachable Phantom. If we start with the minifigures, it's the only part I have a disappointment with from the whole set. Although it's brilliant to have a new Hera and Chopper, let alone Jason, compared to the minifigures which came with the original release though, I'm still slightly disappointed with what we've been given. But you win some and you do lose some, and if I have to have Officer Hawkins and Lieutenant Beta rather than Sabine and Ezra, I'll take it over spending $500 on the original, especially with how good the rest of this set actually is, and because I can get their minifigures for a fraction of that price on eBay. But sticking with the minifigures, Hera looks fantastic and she is the standout of the bunch. She's very accurate in comparison to how we see her in the Ahsoka series, and the detailing from her head to her feet completely match. It's a great representation of how a LEGO minifigure should look. Moving on to her son, Jason is arguably the only minifigure I have an issue with as to how they appear. As we saw at the end of Rebels and within the first couple episodes of Ahsoka, LEGO have gotten it wrong giving Jason brown hair instead of the green hair as we see within the shows. Now don't get me wrong, he still does look great, but it's just slightly frustrating, because even if they didn't know how Jason was set to appear in Ahsoka, they should have based him on what we've already seen in Rebels. And I could well see them doing what they did with Kanan in the original Ghost and maybe re-releasing this set with Jason having green hair rather than his brown hair, which could maybe make early releases of this set quite valuable in the near future, but we'll see. We'll see. Chopper gets a new and improved minifigure with back printing, which is always nice to see. I have no issues with his arms being grey over white. To be honest, I kind of quite like it. In fact, he's the minifigure that I've been most excited to get my hands on ever since this set was announced. Officer Hawkins and Lieutenant Beta look okay, especially Beta with the amount of printing all over his body, and the fact it features a pretty cool Mon Calamari headpiece. But in comparison to the original Ghost certainly wins in comparison to what minifigures it comes with. But in saying that, that's probably the only place in which it does. Because if we move on to the main build, from first glance you can see just how amazing the Ghost and Phantom truly are. For starter, I'm so happy that LEGO decided to include the Phantom within this set compared to the original wave in which you had to buy the Phantom separately. And the best part is its scale is a whole lot better, as they've had to make it in order for it to fit on top of the Ghost accurately. If I detach the Phantom here to give you a greater look at it, you can see straight away that there is no lack of detail amongst this small build. It features a load of sticker pieces, which gives it the correct representation of how the Phantom looks. I love how this front visor lifts up in a nice fashion, which allows you to place your pilot into position. It's nicer than having just a piece in which you take off like we see with so many other sets. Now, if you didn't understand why this ship isn't fully symmetrical and that it is missing a curved piece on one side, it's so that you can take off Chopper's headpiece and attach it to the Phantom. Unlike having a slot for Chopper to go into place like it was within the original version, this allows Chopper to feature like he did so many times within Rebels, but within the more downscaled size with a lot better accuracy rather than just plonking him on the side. Now, I've got to admit, I do think that this is actually a pretty cool feature. Now, I think LEGO did really well with the small detailed changes, but also if you open up the back here, you can find a hidden blaster and a pair of binoculars, which is a nice little playable feature to be included. In my eyes, it is a truly wonderful Phantom. Now, moving on to the mothership, the new holy grail of my collection. This is the Ghost. A truly amazing build which took me nearly 4 hours to finish. This ship features most of the 1400 pieces included within the set, and if you're like me and you think that the box art looks amazing and what you've seen online also looks pretty good, then just wait until you have this in person for yourselves. When I'd finally completed this build, I was truly just blown away at first look. The memories of watching Rebels and the attachment that I developed to that show just hit me all at once. Even just holding onto this set right now. It's the only set that I have in my whole collection of LEGO where I feel so incredibly proud to own, to the point where it just makes me smile every time I look at it. Sorry, I was getting a little bit distracted there. Now, if we take a closer look, there's a bunch of detail, little Easter eggs and more in which I want to share with you guys. Firstly, the exterior looks incredible to me. Being a huge fan of Rebels, from the naked eye, there isn't anything that pops out straight away as if it's wrong and shouldn't be there. The build is fairly sturdy all around. There is a small amount of wiggle room, which is pretty good because it stops pieces from just snapping off here, there and everywhere, but it is fairly easy and really light to move around. I love the use of these newer, darker styled visor pieces. I think they go really well, especially with this build compared to the clear plastic that we've seen in most sets. And the colour of the pieces that we get with the Ghost itself is a pretty fair representation of what the Ghost actually does look like. So it's a really good job so far from LEGO. Now, if we have a look at some of the playable features, there's a gun pod shooter here at the bottom, which you can move from side to side. It's also where you have both of the laser stud shooters. But I have removed mine, as it seems that every 2 seconds that I slightly move this pod, I do end up nearly taking my eyes out. There are also some doorways either side of this ship where the Ghost crew can enter on and off. It also has another pod at the top here in which you can open and place another minifigure in if you wish to. Now, here's an awesome Easter egg dating all the way back to season 1 of Rebels, where Hera sent off Zeb and Ezra to get some fruit.
Wait, you did all this for fruit?
No. Okay, maybe a little.
But in particular, you might recall melee runs. Inside this small storage crate, you'll find a hidden melee run. Definitely a really cool hidden Easter egg there for you all. I love the little throwback that LEGO have opted to include here. But whilst we're down here, you can see how much space is available with the interior of this ship. It's nice that the minifigures don't all feel squashed and that you can somewhat display them to some degree. Also, if you're wondering what these studs are for on the floor, they are of course for Chopper. Now, if we have a little bit of fun and look at some of the more questionable pieces that LEGO have decided to include within this set, we have a couple of paint rollers on the exterior, some grey sausages on the thrusters, and part of an Inquisitor lightsaber included for the control panel in one of the gun pods. I think the less said the better, especially with the paint roller and the sausage. It doesn't actually really bother me too much, but it does just show the clear intentions of cost cutting. But when you're paying upwards of $150, it is just slightly frustrating, but it doesn't take away from everything else that we do receive from this set. Although I just can't help but see paint rollers now every time that I look at the front. I just hope that they're leftovers from some of Sabine's work. At the back of the ship here, you'll find a bit of an empty space. This is where you do indeed use this to detach and reattach the Phantom. This set is around 35 centimeters in width, so it's a really good size to fit on a shelf or wherever you decide to keep it. It's really a masterpiece for anyone's display. So to give my certainly not biased final thoughts on this set, as a whole, the Ghost is fantastic. If you're by any means a fan of Rebels or even Ahsoka, then this set should truly be a must-have for you. It's phenomenally good. Phenomenally? I can't even say that word. It's really good. And although there are a few flaws here and there, it's a truly amazing set and 100% worth every single penny. It's a much better option than buying the original, especially for the price. And it's almost as if the LEGO gods have gifted us with the perfect set to end the year. Well, for me at least. Please don't go telling me that you're not a fan of Rebels. It would just be heartbreaking. I hope you have enjoyed this video. It has been one of my favorites to make. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you all very soon. Bye guys. Man, I couldn't be happier. Woo! Ready? Catch.